They have a combined 12 years in the National Football League. They combined for 65 career sacks, 232 tackles, 1 Pro Bowl selection, and 1 Employee of the Month award.
That's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him.
It's Train and Grose on the All AZ Podcast Network.
Welcome in episode 65, Train and Grose, Bertrand Berry, Mike Grose, Sean Crespin. Glad you could join us.
Yeah.
Coming to you this afternoon from train station in downtown Phoenix, Arizona.
That's right.
Lovely spring day here in the valley. Episode number 65. I did my homework.
Uh-oh.
How you feeling about Elvin Bethea?
Elvin Bethea, wow. That's taking me back right there. That's old school right there.
That's old school Oilers.
Old school Oilers, man. I mean, you know, that's the Love You Blue, the powder blue.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, 65, that's a big man.
Yeah.
He's a big man. Took up a lot of space, brother.
Sometimes when I Google this, because I believe it or not, I haven't committed to memory every number of every player. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's a list. There's like 5 or 6 guys. And there was a couple other 65s. But when you say who's the best to wear a certain number,
Right.
number 65, there wasn't much debate.
Yeah.
It was a hands down Elvin Bethea decision.
Yeah.
They say in boxing, a unanimous decision.
I mean, you know, easy.
So is it too late? I don't know if you can see this on screen. There we go. If you're watching us on YouTube.
Yeah.
Today's show is brought to you by the Girl Scout cookies, the Samoas. Crisp cookies with caramel, coconut, and dark chocolatey stripes.
Delicious.
So, let's see, I got here about 20 minutes ago to set up. And Mike Grose broke out a box of those Samoas. About 5 minutes before we started, so what's that? Do the math, about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Box was gone.
I'm kind of mad you only brought one box. Man.
Me too.
Seriously, like,
Box
I
was
felt like
gone.
I kind of got cheated. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we should have had at least 2 more.
I should have bought
pieces.
another
Got
one.
cheated.
I should have bought another one. And the funny thing was, you said that I broke it out when you got here. Well, it was I put it in the freezer,
Yep.
so I'm sure they weren't like gooey because it's a little warm outside. Mm-hmm. Man, if I would have brought these out before you got here, I would have put this in the
Would've
trash.
got-
You would have never known about it.
It would have never. Yeah.
Which would have been fair. I was running late today. That's what I get.
No, it's not that at all. I'm just saying.
No, we're not selfish now. We're not gonna do that to you.
Yeah. There was in
we're all
the
for one and
container
one
there
for all.
was a plastic sleeve in each one. There was three in there. Was there 5 or 6 in each one? 5?
There's 5 in each, and there was 3 sleeves.
So we destroyed 15 cookies.
Yeah, quickly.
All right. There's so
in
much
less than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
so much to get to today. But before we do this, I've been sitting on this since the last time the 3 of us were together.
All right.
And you know how like you're messing around the internet and you see something you didn't know,
Right.
and you're like, "Damn, I never knew that."
Okay.
You guys know who Dolly Parton is?
Come on.
Yes.
You guys know who Led Zeppelin
Yes.
is?
Yes.
Did you know Dolly Parton recorded Stairway to Heaven?
What do you mean by recorded?
She did Stairway to Heaven and released it. There's a video, you can see it out there.
Is that
Wow.
right?
And she killed it.
Hang on, I'll find it.
And Robert Plant, or Jimmy Page, one of them, I don't know, Jimmy Page, I don't think. Anyways. Somebody from Led Zeppelin said, you know what?
We should do it.
That wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
She did a good job.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, it is the same song, but it doesn't have the Led Zeppelin. It's got the Dolly Parton feel
Yeah.
of that Led Zeppelin classic. And I've been waiting for like 2 weeks to share that with you guys.
Wow.
The emoji of the head exploding,
Yeah.
that was me when I found it. I'm supposed to be working, don't tell the day job. And I stumbled across this, and I was sitting at my computer. I'm like, I got to watch this again.
Yeah.
It's Dolly Parton,
Not bad.
an American treasure, people.
She's
call
always
it.
full of surprises. I mean, you know, now that the late great Betty White has moved on, she's kind of filled that mantle of America's sweetheart.
The other thing, too, that was interesting, and I think why I found it, because the story popped up for a reason, because I think it was back in the early 90s or late 80s that she actually did this. And Sean will keep me honest on that if he finds it. But they had wanted to nominate her for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And she's like, well, I'm not a rock and roll singer, so thank you
I'm a
very much.
country singer.
You know, typical Dolly Parton, give it to somebody who's more deserving than me.
Right.
I'm like, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Come on.
come on, Dolly.
Right.
But Stairway to Heaven by Dolly Parton.
Wow.
Google it. Listen to it on the way home.
It's a good listen, huh?
It is what it is, but it's
Yeah.
Dolly Parton singing Led Zeppelin, so for that reason alone, it deserves a listen. So I'll leave it at that.
I mean, can I just say Kashmir is my favorite Led Zeppelin?
Yeah.
Cashmere. I mean, like I used to come out before games, like that was on the playlist.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. The violins at the beginning. Mike, we've had this discussion about violins.
We've had the discussion about violins. I don't know that and you may have mentioned Cashmere before.
Yes.
And forgive me if I've forgotten that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense when you say it, but when you say it like that, it kind of.
Yeah. The first part of the song, that riff, it gets me going. Like it gets me ready to go play some football. I was ready to go and do my thing, and it just got me in a zone. And of course, when they brought the whole orchestra and everything else, I mean, I didn't. The words weren't as important, but the flow of the song,
right?
That build up, that slow, methodical build up, that was always key for a good pregame.
So
song. Violins are very underrated as far as an instrument in music overall.
I agree.
I truly think that when you hear violins, it puts you in a different mindset. So like if you hear rap songs with violins in them, you automatically think that those artists, whoever's rapping or whatever, and on top of that, has a little intelligence. They've stepped their game up just a little bit, because not everybody puts violins in their songs as far as accompanist.
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with
I would play the Dolly Parton deal, but it looks like it's too official. Like, I thought this was going to be her one-off in a studio.
It's real.
And since we're on, a podcast,
Super Megacorp won't let us.
Yeah, we can't necessarily play it. It has to be royalty-free.
Wow.
Otherwise, we get flagged. So it is out there. I'm looking at it. And judging by the video, there's no date on it, but I'm going to go early 80s.
Oh, early 80s.
That's what I would go with, just judging by the video, right? It kind of looks like an early 80s, mid-80s maybe. Ish.
That dress with the hair, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Early
yeah.
80s.
She's been around for a minute, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Lots to get to.
You don't say.
We'll get to the NBA. Big news for the Suns. March Madness is insane.
Madness. Living up to the name.
Hello, St. Peter's.
Wow.
But we got to start with the NFL.
Hello, goodbye, Kentucky.
Right? Love it.
Anyway.
I love it. Well, they beat two teams from Kentucky.
Cheap shot, yeah. Sorry.
Goodbye, Kentucky. Goodbye, Murray State.
Yeah.
Well, they say that well, save it for the NCAA.
Thank you so much.
We'll go down it. But so much to get to in the National Football League. I don't even know where to start. And we'll begin with what we knew. It was last offseason this was the case. And already I believe this offseason has topped the previous offseason in terms of quarterback movement.
Quarterback news.
But underneath that, a lot of movement.
Yes.
Some big time stuff, and then some not so big time stuff.
Yep.
And still a lot of questions to be answered. Did some teams, looking at you 49ers, you're the smartest guys in the room, did you overplay your hand?
I'm looking at you, Seattle. What are you going to do at quarterback?
How do you like Baker Mayfield now?
I think you're loving him right now.
But the two big ones, and you're looking at to give or to get, you got to give, or whatever that old saying is.
You got to give.
Russell Wilson moves to Denver.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson, immediately on the heels of the Houston District Attorney saying there would be no criminal charges filed in his case, is now a member of the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
And you look at the haul that the Seahawks and the Texans got in return. Deshaun Watson was traded to Cleveland for 3 number ones. So this year, next year, and the following year, number 1 picks, as well as 2 4s and a 3rd.
Wow.
Houston did send a pick back to Cleveland. It was a 6th rounder, I think. So the numbers, if you just do, because I know these teams work off of some kind of card where it's a value thing.
Yes.
Russell Wilson, he went to Denver, and Denver sent 3 players, as well as 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a 5th.
Mike, I look at quarterbacks, and of course they're going to get all of the attention. But when you have 2 quarterbacks of this caliber, particularly Deshaun Watson, you're talking about a young guy who's, 26 years old, or maybe not even 26 years old yet? A guy that has already made his mark in the NFL. He's already shown that when he's on the field, he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in all of the NFL. And for him to move, which we all anticipated this, because this all started when he said he wanted out of Houston because of all the moves that they had made previous to him asking for the trade. I think the NFL has done a great job of becoming the best soap opera that TV can buy.
Yeah.
And they have found a way to stay relevant all season long because there's going to be stories that are going to be relevant that are going to lead sports channels, their main shows. That the NFL will forever be the top dog when you start talking about who's being talked about as far as the 4 major sports here in the United States. And they're not giving it up anytime soon, Mike.
Not at all. I mean, we're just talking about the start of free agency right now. The season's been over just over
5
a
weeks.
month. 5-6 weeks,
Yep,
the season's
5
over.
weeks. Mm-hmm.
And we're just at the start of free agency.
Haven't even gotten to the draft.
Because you got the start of free agency, then you
Yes.
get into draft,
Yes.
and then people try to put the pieces together after the start of free agency, whatever happens or doesn't happen in the draft, and you got that period of time until training camp. So we're just at the start of this offseason for the National Football League, as you just said. Deshaun Watson will be 27 years of age when the season starts for the Cleveland Browns.
So he's 26 right now.
Right, he's 26 now. And then Russell Wilson, of course, the ripe old age of 33. And the other thing that came out of that whole story up in Seattle is really how bad it got with Russell Wilson and that franchise. And Pete Carroll on the one hand saying, look, I fought to keep him. But on the other hand, there was a lot about the way the Seahawks were playing lately that really frustrated Russell Wilson.
Correct.
I heard Dan Patrick today say something along the lines of, we're going to run the ball for 3 quarters, and if we find ourselves behind, we're going to turn to Russell and say, bail us out again.
Yep.
It was basically the offensive game plan for the Seahawks for the last couple of years, and Russell's like, that's not going to work for me. And so he goes to Denver, which we talked about as last NFL season unwound, and said, look, here's a team that if you give them a quarterback and a new coaching staff, this could be a dangerous football team.
Well, his wishes were granted. And I think for Russell Wilson, I look at that AFC West. We talked last year about the NFC West and how it was a brutal lineup, how you were going to go through the gauntlet of all of the quarterbacks in the NFC West and the arms race that it was to be in the NFC West. Well, now the AFC West has said, you know what, hold our beer while we one-up you, because you look at every single team in the AFC West, they either got a quarterback or they went and got another rush a bookend for an already established end on their team. So I look at the Raiders, how they were able to pillage Chandler Jones. I look at the Broncos, how they were able to get Russell Wilson, also get Randy Gregory from the Dallas Cowboys. And, oh, by the way, what the hell are the Cowboys doing?
Randy Gregory
giving
Dallas, the team and the fans, the big FU on the way out of town.
Correct. Yes, but then you also look at the Los Angeles Chargers, what they did with Khalil Mack.
It's so gross.
I mean, and to bring in Jackson from the New England Patriots, to go with Justin Herbert and to go with the weapons that they already have. This is going to be one of the more fascinating seasons for a specific division, unlike we've pretty much seen in any time in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, because not only do they have the quarterbacks, and offensively every team has really a solid personnel for skill set on the offensive side, skill players on the offensive side, but everything you just mentioned on the defensive side
bookend
just makes it so much more intriguing, because everybody can bring offense to the table, but everybody's also geared up right now to get after that quarterback that they have across from them. I mean, the Chiefs still have Frank Clark, and I mean, there's still
Chris Jones.
I mean, the whole division from top to bottom is pretty impressive.
We'll get to the Chiefs momentarily, but I think of all the teams, they probably did the least and they look the worst as you go into the 2022 season, because I look at the other teams in this division, they have increased significantly. And we didn't even bring up one Devontae Adams, who went to the Las Vegas Raiders,
Where'd he go, B-Train? Where'd he go?
He went to the Las Vegas Raiders. He went to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Come up with your playoff teams from the AFC right now.
There's eight teams right now that really have a legitimate shot to make a Super Bowl run in the AFC right now, Mike.
Right.
They have all loaded up. They've each got quarterbacks. They've got defense. They've got special teams. And for the most part, the coaches are all veteran-type coaches. And we haven't even talked about the Patriots. I didn't even bring the Patriots up in there with Bill Belichick and company and what they're going to do in their second year. It's going to be fascinating. I'm fascinated to see how this year's AFC is going to shake down, because there's going to be a lot of teams beating up on each other within their division. So we'll see some of those teams kind of separate once we get to October, the first part of November. But I think the drama of it all heading into the season, I don't know if there'll be this much I don't know if we've seen this much anticipation for a season in quite a bit.
The other side of that, and it's a guy that we kind of touched on earlier, but now we look at the movement of Matt Ryan.
Yes, to Indianapolis.
From Atlanta to Indianapolis.
Another NFC to AFC team.
But the Indianapolis is one of those teams, depending on how that division shakes out, where you could see it's not as strong, obviously, and you could have a team, and I don't know if Indianapolis with Matt Ryan is that team, that you put up a better record than all those other quality teams, say in the AFC West, due to the fact they're beating up on each other.
Correct.
Then you sit there in Indianapolis, fat, dumb, and happy, for example.
Sure.
Or maybe it's New England.
Right.
And you get a better record, and you control the narrative once the postseason starts.
Very, very top heavy. Because as you just said, I forgot completely about Indianapolis. I didn't even think about Matt Ryan, another former league MVP, a guy that has played in the Super Bowl already. So now you're talking about 9 teams that really feel like they have a legit shot of making a Super Bowl run. So I'm fascinated. I can't wait to get to this season here in the fall.
Another move that's not quarterback related that I wanted to bring up, and we've talked about this offline, Tyreek Hill. He gets traded from Kansas City.
Wow.
To Miami.
That's the wild move of the day.
And it goes to show what happens when you're playing in a salary cap era. When
Sure.
you're playing against a hard cap in the NFL. And I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
When you look at Patrick Mahomes,
Sure.
who was his go-to guy? Who was his what do you call it? Safety blanket? What do kids the security blanket?
Security blanket, yeah. I mean, of course, we always knew about Tom Brady being Rob Gronkowski, and everybody would assume that it was going to be Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs. But you brought up a stat when we first got here, Mike, that says something completely different as far as who Patrick Mahomes felt most comfortable throwing the ball to on a regular basis.
25 times more to Tyreek Hill last year versus Travis Kelce.
Wow.
That was his guy. He targeted more. And so this is a big deal. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster's nice.
Yes.
But he's not Tyreek Hill.
He's not Tyreek Hill, and he's not the speed of Tyreek Hill. He's not the performer. He doesn't have the history in the NFL of a Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, since he's been in the league since 2016, has been one of the top receivers as far as touchdowns, as far as yards in a season. He has been as productive as any wide receiver as you will find, other than maybe the Devontae Adams and Mike Evans out in Tampa Bay.
Hill gets 4 years, $120 million to go to Florida. And you brought up a good point with Devontae Adams. You go to Nevada and you go to Florida, no state income tax.
And I think looking at Tyreek Hill, I don't think Tyreek Hill happens unless Devontae Adams goes to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So the fact that the market was reset with Devontae Adams, now you're Tyreek Hill, you're like, wait a minute, I'm every bit as successful as this guy, and I've actually played in 2 Super Bowls in recent history. Why aren't I getting the kind of money that Devontae Adams got? And he found himself on the receiving end of a huge contract not too long ago.
Something that you can answer that Sean and I can't.
Okay.
State income tax.
Big.
When you're a free
Huge.
agent, is that something you look at? I mean, is that? Because I can't believe it. We used to have a guy, the sports tax man, that would come on with us from time to time. Your show, when you and I did Saturday shows, great guy.
Sure.
And he'd tell us all the ins and outs about professional athletes and taxes and things like that. I get it, but that can't be like a top line decision. Tyreek Hill gets traded to Miami, but that's not the reason. Or Devontae Adams to Las Vegas. That's not the reason, is it? But
no, it's not the reason. But you got to remember, Mike, and I've always told you, NFL players are 53 individual businessmen.
Yeah.
And you've got to look at the business as much as the owners and the rest of these organizations are, because they're solely looking at it from a business standpoint, whereas players look at it from a emotional standpoint. Hey, these are my guys. These are my teammates. We want to do something together, whereas the front office, they're looking at this strictly by numbers and trying to make those numbers fit. And when you see players do the same thing, it almost seems like they're being labeled as cold and calculated and selfish, whereas, well, you have a salary cap. You're only willing to spend so much money on the players that you're actually having to play for you. So I think it's a little bit of hypocrisy, but when it all settles down, I think you see these kind of contracts come about, and the guys that are truly special that have earned it are going to get that kind of money. And yes, no, state tax does not play the biggest role. Now, if it's even, maybe you go with that and think about more money. But aside from that, you want to go with the situation that gives you the best chance to be successful.
I remember when you and I were doing the radio show, you told me when the schedule came out, you're like, one year you guys played at the Jets and at the Giants. Like, damn, got to play New Jersey Tax twice.
Twice, man.
And then you go to California, play California twice. And I don't think people realize that. As an athlete, you're paid wherever you play.
Yes.
So you're not paid in Arizona for the games that you play
That's correct.
elsewhere. So
That's correct.
As a taxpayer,
that's right.
You had to file a California state income tax, a New Jersey state, and wherever else you happen to pay.
That's right. All the East Coast, the Marylands, if you go to the Wisconsins and the Michigans, I mean the Indianas, I mean there was always multiple income tax forms that I had to fill out. I mean it would get to the point where it's like, man, look, I don't even know. I mean, like, just figure it out. I mean, you know how much I made. You know what the state tax is there, so figure it out.
You weren't sitting down doing TurboTax at the
No, I was not doing TurboTax on the 14th of March, no. No, I was not. Or at the April 14th.
Was your fine tax deductible?
No, it was not. It was not tax deductible.
That stinks, man. They took money from you, and it wasn't. So you got it as income.
Yeah.
And then they took it away from you.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That's unfair.
Played for free.
Played for free.
Yeah.
And then some if you had to get taxed on.
Yeah. I mean, love of the game. Come on.
Look, real quickly, Cardinals have been relatively quiet this offseason. They've re-signed a couple of their guys.
They lost the big one.
They lost a couple big ones, but in terms of the additions, James Conner remains a member of the Arizona Cardinals. But interestingly,
He earned it.
Oh, he earned it. But interestingly, ESPN was, kind of giving their early grades, and they weren't too kind to the Arizona Cardinals for retaining James Conner. Essentially said, he had a good year for you last year, but man, you way overpaid him, particularly when you look at the running back position. Well, I think, aren't you kind of in a lose-lose situation if you're the Cardinals? Because if you let him walk, you're like, damn, you let Chase Edmonds and James Conner go.
Yes.
But James Conner's like, look, I gave you that one-year deal once.
Right.
We ain't doing that again. That ain't happening again.
It was a prove-it deal, and he proved it. So at this point, you've got to go and you've got to take care of him. If you're going to appreciate him for what he's done, then you got to cut the check.
Yep.
If you don't think that it was worthy of anything, then you let him go. But the fact that you didn't have a Chase Edmonds to fall back on, he went and got his money very early because he saw the writing on the wall. He knew that he wasn't going to command top dollar, but if he can get anything close to that somewhere else, well, why not? It was going to be a pay increase anyway. So to him, it's all good. I'm making more money to do the same job, so I'm happy wherever I'm at. You would have loved to have played where you started, but that's not how the NFL business side of it goes.
Well, the business side is right, and the business side from an individual player. Again, you keep us honest here. The most important contract, particularly now after the last CBA, isn't that first contract.
The second one.
It's the second
It's
contract,
always the second.
And that's where Chase Edmonds is right now.
That's where he is, and he had to do what was best for him and his family, and God bless him. We appreciated him for what he was able to do with us. I thought he put himself in a great position to get that contract, Mike, and I know he's going to do a fine job. And I'm excited to see how all of these guys go. And, I mean, if you're Christian Kirk, a guy that's a native of Arizona and decided to go to Jacksonville, nobody on earth would have told him to stay in Arizona with that kind of money on the table.
Yeah. No.
$84 million, there's no way he would have said no to that.
In Christian Kirk's wildest dreams, I don't know that he thought $84 million was coming his way.
No, because he wasn't even the third receiver here, Mike.
No, exactly.
Rondale Moore had taken that spot decisively.
And real quickly, you brought it up, and I would have forgotten, but Jacksonville, man, the more time passes and the more people
start talking about Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer, my
train wreck.
Goodness.
Train wreck.
And one of the more, I don't even know what the right word is because it's hard, from a relations, I can't relate.
Sure.
But you try to put it in the context of what I do every day and treating people with respect. And there's a story that came out about John Brown, who played here, of course.
Sure.
He made a mistake in practice.
Yep.
And Trevor Lawrence and John Brown are working on it after practice.
That's right.
Which, to me, I'm like, that's cool. Like Trevor Lawrence, the star quarterback, hanging out with his wide receiver.
Correct.
Let's get it right.
Right. Developing relationships.
Urban Meyer comes up to the two of them and says, hey, you got to slow it down for these guys from the South, John Brown from the South, because they don't get
Florida.
They don't get this stuff too quick.
And, by the way, where did Urban Meyer make most of his hay?
Florida.
In Florida. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. But I just.
So disrespectful.
So disrespectful, Mike. But think about this. If he's saying that to grown men, what was he saying at the University of Florida and what was he saying at Ohio State? Because that's kind of toned down. Like he knew that he was talking to grown men who had the capability to do something to him and not necessarily get fined like that because they're making more than he is. He's in a situation now where he's not the guy that's the highest paid on the team. He's not the face of the franchise. So just imagine when he actually was the face, the things that he was actually getting away with saying to his players and coaches and everybody else that he felt that was beneath him.
The other thing that I thought was fascinating and troubling at the same time was that the assistant coaches had to explain to him who the various star players around the league were.
He didn't know who Aaron Donald was?
Didn't know who Aaron Donald was.
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me? You got a game plan for this guy, huh? What? Now,
are you kidding me? You don't know who that guy is? The best player in the NFL, by the way, who I've said that, Mike, for at least 4 years. You don't know who that guy is. I mean, I understand that he may not be the sexiest guy to know, and he's not a quarterback, he's not a receiver, and one of these guys that gets a lot of airtime, but Aaron Donald does get his fair share of airtime. Like, when his games are on, they tend to talk about number 99 quite often. So the fact that he had no idea of who he was and all the stories that, as you said, Mike, it's crazy to think how this guy even kept this job that long.
The exact quote from this story in The Athletic was, "Who's this 99 guy on the Rams?" Meyer asked one of his assistant coaches during an in-season meeting. "I'm hearing he might be a problem for us."
Wow.
He didn't know who Deebo Samuels was when they were getting ready for the 49ers.
Wow. You might want to learn the personnel because it's pretty important to your job and pretty important to how you win a game.
You were on that one, like, you know, people talked about it like, hey, is this going to work, whatever.
No.
And you said from the word jump,
no,
it ain't going to work.
It ain't going to work because who he had become, Mike. I mean, he was not the same guy that I remember at Notre Dame. Remember, I tell this story all the time. He was the receivers coach when I was at the University of Notre Dame, my junior and senior year. He was nowhere near the type of guy that he has become. Now, he didn't have the power and he didn't have the cachet. He didn't have the championships to back it up. But at the same time,
in Columbus.
Well,
sorry.
So, you know, maybe he did. But, you know, I just didn't know that Urban was capable of this type of behavior because he never displayed that while he was at the University of Notre Dame under head coach Lou Holtz.
So Christian Kirk to Jacksonville, it's got to be a better scenario regardless.
Congratulations to Christian Kirk,
absolutely.
man. If you can get the money, you know, and you don't have to put a mask on or put a gun up to somebody's head to do it, man, go get it.
And you know me, a local kid does well.
Absolutely.
Love to see it.
Get paid.
Good for him. All right, we'll step aside here. On the other side, madness.
Ooh.
It's March Madness.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about it coming up on Train and Gross.
Oh, yeah.
Train and Gross.
Give us a follow on Twitter at Train and Gross.
That's right.
You can vote in our polls.
Come on.
What's your favorite kind of Girl Scout cookie?
Hey, I think, well, we ate mine today. So I maintain.
How's your bracket? Stupid question.
I didn't make one.
I filled one out and forgot to submit it.
Are you serious?
But here we go. Number 11, Iowa State, still alive. Number 11, Michigan, still alive. Got number 8, North Carolina. I guess that's not really – that's your bracket holding true to form. You got 16.
Yeah,
no,
8, 9.
4. Sweet 16, no.
Yeah.
So they advance. But the story, at least from that angle, St. Peter's.
How about St. Peter's?
And I started to tell this at the very beginning of the podcast, but then I'm like, no, we can't control ourselves. In our NFL segment, we can't be talking college basketball.
Right.
St. Peter's athletic budget, all of it. Mm-hmm. Basketball, volleyball, whatever other sports they got there.
Baseball,
probably. That's what John Calipari makes a year.
Wow.
Is what their budget is.
Wow. Oh, by the way.
See
you, John Calipari.
See you, John Calipari.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I thought was cool with this team is that, they did they went back and looked at the rating, the scouting services, and we talk about this all the time.
Yep.
They had no stars. Like, literally, from Rivals and all the other ones that do the rankings, they had 0 stars on the St. Peter's basketball.
Could they be this year's Florida Gulf Coast?
I hope so.
Or Loyola, Chicago, or what was
no,
that?
Loyola.
It was Loyola Chicago.
Loyola Chicago.
Yeah. With Sister
Jean.
Sister Jean.
Yeah.
She's still alive, by the way.
Yeah, she's still doing it.
That's good.
102.
Had a chance to meet Sister Jean. I was doing the Final Four that year.
Are you serious?
She came to their pep rally and everything that we did for all the teams. Yeah.
How cool
Seems
is that?
like a nice lady.
I mean, how can she not be a nice lady? She's a sister. Come on.
Well, and St. Peter's is a Jesuit school like Loyola.
Correct.
So there you go. Maybe that's the closest tie-in.
I mean, you always look for these type of stories, Mike. That's what we're looking for, because the thing that I feel sorry for with the NCAA is their season has been hijacked by football and every other sport, pro basketball that you can think of, and the fact that they only really get 1 month to really do their thing. And it's not even a whole month. It's really more like 3 weeks where they really just get to do what they are supposed to do, and you have all the drama. The games are on every station, and everybody's watching their favorite team. I watched my team, and of course I was proud of them. You know, they bowed out this past weekend, and very proud of what they were able to accomplish. But the uncertainty of it, I think that's what people love about it. There's no given. There's no, you could be a top seed, but there's no given that you're going to win in advance, because it's just one game. You've got 48 minutes or 40 minutes to go out there and put your best foot forward. And if you have a off shooting day, or you have a few too many turnovers, Mike, you're going home.
By the way, speaking of your school, I know you're partial to women's basketball at Notre Dame as well.
Put it on Oklahoma.
Dude, the most impressive win of this postseason is what Notre Dame women
in Oklahoma
did to them in Norman.
In Oklahoma.
First round of the women's tournament is played on the home courts of the top seeds.
That's right.
And Notre Dame was not a top seed, so they got shipped down to the Norman.
They were the 5 seed, and they went to the 4 seed.
And they beat them.
They beat them to death, Mike, by 40 plus.
Oklahoma's still having nightmares.
Shout out to Niele Ivey, because she was my recruit. I loved her. I mean, when she first came to Notre Dame as a player, you know, me and my buddy, Tate, we hosted her and her good friend. And to see her grow and blossom into the coach that she is now, taking over from Muffet McGraw, it's just a beautiful thing. So shout out to the Lady Irish.
Absolutely. A couple other nuggets. You on the Mike Krzyzewski bandwagon here? You hope Duke wins it so Coach can go out a winner?
It would be a nice story. It would be one that I think I've come around on Coach K, because I had bitter feelings based on that 1991 UNLV squad, that Final Four game, where I still to this day I will always believe that they threw that game intentionally to lose that game, because there's no way that you beat a team by 30 points and then you come back the next year and you lose. I will never ever believe that a team can make up 30 points in one calendar season.
Standing in their way, if they beat Texas Tech on Friday night, is Gonzaga, the number 1 seed in all the tournament. They've had a few scares, Mike. Yeah, no doubt. Another story we talked a little bit about because of a story during the regular season, Juwan Howard in Michigan.
Yeah.
Last we talked about him, he was choking. He smacked an assistant coach from Wisconsin that probably deserved it.
Shout out to EPMD. Smack me and I'll smack you back.
But he got caught on film.
That's right.
And, by the way, Michigan's in the Sweet 16 for the, fifth year in a row.
And Wisconsin is at home watching from the couch.
Oh, by the way, if we're keeping score at home.
That's right. Yeah, we keep the receipts.
But the other I use that so many times now. I'm like, hey, a friend of mine says, hey,
keep receipts, baby. That's right.
But you want to do away with the handshake line because you saw that. You saw people saying, well, the most ridiculous people like fire Juwan Howard. Well, that wasn't going to happen.
No.
Team went and what'd they go, 3-2 in the 5 games he was suspended, and then played well enough in the Big Ten tournament to make the big dance. Now they're still alive. But, by the way, the handshake line against Tennessee, Kennedy Chandler visibly upset after losing to Michigan. And the next picture you get is Coach Howard embracing him. Now, obviously, he's a family friend, played with his son Jet, but still,
right.
You see that empathetic side from Juwan Howard, a guy that understands what it's like because he's been on that. He's lost games like that.
It's heartbreaking.
Right? And so there's your handshake line moment, part 2 for Juwan Howard.
Mike, I look at this and it just makes me realize that this is as good as it gets when you start talking about college basketball and college athletics, and the fact that you have a Juwan Howard and the University of Michigan, they're able to make this run, and it really it's a great redemption story. The thing that I'm looking for with this tournament is the main storyline is, can Gonzaga get it done?
Finally.
Can they, as a quote-unquote mid-major team, which they're not a mid-major as far as basketball is concerned, can they get over the hump and finally run the table and cut down the nets? Villanova looked really good, a team that has had a lot of success in recent history, and 2016, 2018 winning the title. But Gonzaga is that one team that everybody, I think, keeps an eye out for, because you've heard about them. They've been coming for years, Mike. This has been over a decade in the making, and Mark Few, and it's like, okay, is this the year? Like he got all the way to the final last year. He wasn't able to get it done. Is this the year that you finally see one of those quote unquote mid-majors finally cut down the nets and hoist that trophy and be the last team standing?
The thing that would be interesting, too, I believe the way the brackets are positioned, that if Arizona wins out and Gonzaga wins out, it would be the coach against the pupil.
Yeah, in the semifinal.
Right.
Yeah.
Mark Few and Tommy Lloyd.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you talk about how great the tournament is, and part of the reason this tournament is great is those subplots that you have. The other, Arizona, obviously the local team here, and Sean Crespin told us about them a long time ago. He said, man, they're big. Yeah. And every announcer that talked about the Arizona Wildcats, whether it was through the run in the Pac-12 tournament, which they won, and now into the NCAA tournament, is like, man, this is a big team. And they just keep coming.
It reminds me of Baylor last year. And you always look at those teams, and it's always fascinating because you always think, okay, if you've got most of your players coming back and you had success the year before, then it should be a given that you get to at least a certain point before you bow out. Baylor didn't make it past the second round. They didn't make it out of the field at 32.
Right.
And they had a lot of their returning guys. I know they had 5 new starters, but a lot of those guys that contributed to that national championship last year were on that team. And Mike, it really is, if you have a bad day, you pick the wrong time to have a bad day once you get into the tournament, because every team at this point has won enough to feel like they deserve to be there.
Sure.
There's been teams that were either conference champions that felt like, hey, we're on a roll. This is our year. This is destiny. Or you've got a team that maybe got to the final of their conference tournament and had a strong enough regular season that says, well, we feel like this is our year. Yeah, we had a little blip in the radar as far as the conference tournament, but we're not tripping on that. We knew we were in, so let's just put all of our energy and effort into the into the big tournament. And I think you're seeing these teams play with a lot of confidence, and a lot of these major Power 5 teams aren't necessarily ready for that confidence that's coming at them full speed.
One of the cool things about the NCAA broadcast, when CBS is done a couple Mondays from now, is they'll run the highlights of all the games.
Shining star, one shining moment.
One shining moment, but I think right now the early leader in the clubhouse for the play of the tournament is Benedict Mathurin, the dunk against TCU the other night.
Oh,
I mean, that was you, Sean, and I have been talking about
posterization,
right? And we've been talking about the SI posters back in the day, man. In the name, image, and likeness. I hope Benedict
gets paid off.
I hope he's making posters.
I hope so too.
I hope he's making posters,
because that's poster worthy.
And the funny thing was, Avery Johnson was calling that game, Coach Johnson.
That's right.
And he was trying to remain like even keel throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, but he's a former player. You know he's going to get excited.
But as a former coach, trying to figure out this whole broadcast thing, don't get too high, don't get too low.
Yeah.
When that play happened, and Coach Johnson has kind of a unique voice.
Very unique. Yes, that's a great way to put it.
But he was yelling, he threw it all the way back. No, he pulled it all the way back. He pulled it all the way back.
I mean, as a guy that played as long as he was in the NBA and in college and being a coach, he's seen just about every dunk that you could possibly see. And for him to get that excited for a young man like that's just a great moment. And I think it's one where his family and friends will they recorded it for him, and they'll be able to look back on that with great fondness for many years.
Well, it was an amazing individual play.
Yes.
But then the timing of that in that game,
correct,
made it all the more interesting.
That's correct.
Arizona gets Houston, who
very impressive.
Very impressive. If Arizona plays the way they did against TCU,
they're going home.
They're in trouble.
They're going home
because Houston under Calvin Sampson, they play some defense.
They and they were a Final Four team last year.
Very good team.
Very good.
Very good team.
And Shed, the point guard, I mean, he is playing very, very well. He's the quarterback, and they're very athletic. They play above the rim. Like, they can play fundamental basketball, but they really like to get up and down and play above the rim.
Wildcats and the Cougars coming up in San Antonio. All right, on the other side, we haven't even talked NBA yet.
My goodness.
Phoenix Suns making some news. We'll get to that next on Train and Grose.
Train and Grose.
Welcome back in. Bertrand Berry, Mike Grose, Sean Crespin. Thanks for hanging out with us. Glad you found us. Train and Grose on Twitter. And ladies and gentlemen, your Phoenix Suns They've already got the little asterisk next to their name.
Yep. Division champions.
Technically, it's a Y on the ESPN website. That they are your West. Well, they've secured the
Pacific.
the Pacific Division championship, and now they're closing in on the Western Conference.
That's right.
Meanwhile, the Detroit Pistons and the Houston Rockets, they have the dreaded E next to their name, which stands for
Eliminated.
Eliminated. But the Suns.
You really gonna do me like that, Mike?
Detroit Pistons, Houston Rockets. I did us like that.
I mean,
Phoenix Suns with everything that's going on. Haven't had CP3 for a bit.
Nope.
And Devin Booker missed a handful of games because of
Payne
protocol.
missed a few games.
And
They're 6 games above 500 without Chris Paul.
yeah.
That's just a good basketball team, and
Yeah.
that's great coaching.
Exactly right.
Want to talk about just an average Sunday afternoon basketball game last week. They played Sacramento. And Sacramento was winning. Suns came back late, forced overtime. And Suns pulled away and won it. And you're like, oh, what Devin Booker do in overtime? Nothing. He fouled out. Landry Shamet dropping threes.
Yeah.
So if that's what's going to happen here, and we talked about this at the start of the season, where you got guys up and down this roster
That's
getting
correct.
meaningful minutes.
Meaningful.
Because that would have been really easy just to say, man, it's Sacramento, it's a Sunday afternoon, got 3 guys fouled out already, let's just go home. The plane's waiting, let's just get out of here.
Mike, I truly believe that the NBA has been given a great opportunity to correct a mistake from last year. Not saying that the coach didn't deserve it, but how in the world does Monty Williams not be the front runner for Coach of the Year in 2021-22? We thought he should have had it last year.
Yeah.
They came out of nowhere, and they took the league by storm, but they continue to keep the league by storm. So not only did they do it once, they're doing it again. And I think the fact that they're doing it without Chris Paul this time, it gives more credence to the fact that the coaching has actually mattered this year and how they've been able to keep this thing going in the right direction, because they really haven't missed that much of a beat without Chris Paul. They've been able to have the same type of record. They've been able to have the same type of success, not only at home but on the road, which is very, very rare that you see outside of really, really good football team or basketball teams. I'm sorry, but it just shows that Monty Williams knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows how to push the buttons of everybody on this roster, and for him to make these masterful moves game in and game out, season in and season out, you've got to give this man real strong consideration for Coach of the Year.
Looking at the odds right now, VegasInsider.com, Monty Williams minus 1,000 to win the NBA Coach of the Year, meaning you have to bet $1,000 to win 100.
What's Eric Spoelstra?
Which is he's plus 700.
So there you go.
So
Because that would be the only other guy that you would think about.
This is essentially saying he's a shoo-in
Right.
to win the award.
'Cause
So he better win it.
Is
As
Eric
B-Train
Spoelstra
saying
second?
it. Yeah, he's second at plus 700.
And there's your difference. Because, and I'll get to Miami in a minute, but you know they're the only other team that would be in the conversation. Suns with 10 games left in the regular season. They win 5, I believe. They beat their all-time franchise record for 62 wins.
Wow.
If 5 wins gives them 63.
Wow.
If that's important. I mean,
I
on
think
the one
it
hand,
is.
it is.
It is.
In the big picture, it probably doesn't mean a lot once you get to the postseason. But you know, if you're a player on this team, you want to be one of the all-time guys. You want to be remembered for these things. So,
Mike, we all want to be remembered. We all play to be remembered.
so 59-14, 808 winning percentage as we record this. They're playing Minnesota right now.
They just beat Minnesota.
They just beat Minnesota right now. So
4 games to get the record.
and that might have changed because I could have swore that
125,
was
116.
that was an 8 a little while ago. Looking around the rest of the NBA, Golden State, man, like injuries, they're 11 back of the Suns right now. They're infighting. Draymond Green bumping his gums, as you like to say. They lost to Orlando the other night, and that's the worst team in the East. And Draymond Green wasn't very happy. He was pointing fingers. I don't know if one landed on him or not, but you know, Golden State going through some stuff. Memphis hanging in there. You talked about Memphis early as an interesting team that could do some damage. They're second in the West right now.
They're coming, Mike. They are a very young team. They are an athletic team, and they have fun on the basketball court. Watching that team play, they enjoy playing with one another, and they are rooting for one another. There are no egos. And I look at Ja Morant.
Ja Morant.
He is if he's not in the MVP conversation, I don't know what the definition of an MVP is. I know you've got Embiid. I know you've got Jokic. I know you've got Giannis Antetokounmpo. But if Ja Morant is not in your top 5 for league MVP, I'm not sure what you're watching in this year's basketball.
We talked about this earlier. 10 games left in the regular season, give or take.
Yep.
And Miami still leads the East.
It's impressive. It's very impressive.
We talked about that, and we're like, yeah, this is nice. It's an nice early season story. Chicago was up there. Remember, we talked about Miami and Chicago. Can they keep it up? Chicago's fallen back to 5th. Miami, they're hanging in there. Now, don't get me wrong, Milwaukee's closing.
Oh, without question.
They're closing strong.
And Philly's, everybody's gonna have to see Philly.
Yeah.
But Mike, this is the thing that always interests me about Miami. For so many years, it was Pat Riley. Pat Riley's culture. Pat Riley's culture. This it's the way that he picks the players. It's the way that he likes the team chemistry to be. But we've got to start putting a lot of respect on Eric Spoelstra's name.
Yeah, we do.
This is a 2-time champion, a guy that coached that big 3 with LeBron and Chris Bosh and D. Wade, got them to 4 straight finals, and he lost in the finals in the bubble to the Lakers. Mm-hmm. So this isn't like they've come out of nowhere. This is a team that's been hovering around the top of the Eastern Conference. And the one thing that you can say, you've had some roster turnover. I mean, obviously, we've got one of their key pieces that they had from the bubble appearance and Jay Crowder. But I just think with Eric Spoelstra, I just think the man knows how to coach. He knows how to get his team ready to play. And every time you look up at the end of the season, the Miami Heat are always in the thick of it.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get talked about as one of those upper echelon coaches. We talk about Tyronn Lue. We talk about Monty Williams, and we talk about Doc Rivers. But you never really hear Eric Spoelstra be that guy that gets mentioned when you start talking about top coaches in the NBA. I think if you're the Miami Heat and you're Pat Riley, you do everything you can to make sure that Eric Spoelstra is happy down in South Beach.
Meanwhile, back to the West, 2 teams we want to talk about before we get out of here and do pump the brakes and dad jokes.
That's right.
I'm going to start with New Orleans. Whew. And Zion Williams.
Oof, it's ugly, Mike.
He's out for the rest of the year.
That's a message that he sent on the video, too.
I was going to ask you that. So if you missed it, Google it. You'll find it. There's a
very impressive.
So he's out with an injured foot.
Crack foot, yeah.
Yeah, and so he's out. Okay, you can't play. That's fine. He's out.
Why would you plan for 10 games? It's not going to change your fate.
No, of course. But the point is that you made, Zion Williamson sending a message. Because if you're out with a cracked foot, you can't play. Are you releasing a video of you dunking during rehab?
Technically, you're not supposed to be able to if your foot is cracked.
Right.
So the fact that he's actually out there and he looks awfully svelte, like he hadn't looked that svelte since his year in Duke.
Right, I was going to say before he got to the NBA.
Yeah, so it's almost like the James Harden game plan where you look big and you look overweight until you get to where you really want to go, and then all of a sudden you shed all the weight and you look like the guy that you're always supposed to be. So I don't know if that was a message or him acting out in a certain way to try to show his disapproval of the way things were handled in New Orleans, and does he want to be there long term? No. That's a big question that they've got to address.
I think they know the answer to that.
Well, but until he comes out and says it, he can give all of the hints and clues that he wants, but until he actually says it or his agent says something to that effect, we have to take it that he wants to be there. But man, it's not a good look when your franchise player is saying, "Hey, I'm back to being who I am." And I'm not giving him a chance to play, and I would really like to get out there on the hardwood.
And look at the video, too. This is not somebody who just happened to pick up a ball. He's a big man.
So 280 pounds, Mike.
Right, but it's not like he just picked up a ball and just did a quick.
Oh, no.
This was a between-the-legs running start.
That would have won the dunk contest
off the backboard.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That would have won it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at first I heard, oh, hey, did you see him? He's dunking the ball. I'm like, oh, like he just – no, this was artistic.
Yeah, this is why aren't you in the slam dunk competition? Oh, yeah, that's right, because you're not playing for
exactly.
Okay.
Lastly, before we get out of here, Los Angeles Lakers.
Ooh.
10 games under 500.
Eey.
So I'm going at this from a different angle. So,
okay.
I mean, because their lot is cast. They mathematically, they're going to make the play-in game just because there are a lot of bad teams around. They're going to make the playoff. Right now, the play-in teams in the Western Conference, in this order: Minnesota, the Clippers, the Lakers, and New Orleans. As a matter of fact.
Wow.
But so they're going to make it. But this whole LeBron thing, and you and I talked about this.
Sure.
He put this team together essentially. So
team.
whatever this team is,
it's because of LeBron.
You should own it.
So you don't get to sit out.
And he's not.
To his credit, he doesn't.
So LeBron's going for the scoring title.
He's balling out of control.
He's going for the scoring title.
Yes,
as of right now, and I don't know if they're playing tonight or not, but as of right now, he's averaging 30 points a game in his 19th season in the National Basketball Association.
Very, very impressive. Mike.
Does that change our perspective on LeBron James at all?
No, we already thought he was one of the greatest ever. He's top 2 of all time. So how does that change? You can only go one place. You can only be number 1. If you're number 2, you can only go up one spot, and you're not taking over Michael Jordan's spot. That's his forever, for all time. Michael Jordan will forever be the greatest player in NBA history. And I don't care how many points and how many rebounds and how many assists LeBron James puts up there, it's still going to be Michael Jordan. Unfortunately, there's nothing he can do. Even if he takes over the all-time scoring title from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, because he would have played as many years or maybe even more if he gets his wish and plays with his son, there's nothing he can do to move up one spot.
Right.
But it's still very impressive to watch. I mean, I'm appreciating it, and I'm glad I'm at an age where I can appreciate greatness, because that's exactly what it is. It's LeBron James showing why he's one of the all-time greats and deserves to be on basketball's Mount Rushmore.
Lakers and the Sixers tonight. LeBron James is out with a sore knee. So he is mortal after all. He does show signs of aging. He is 37, so that's what most 37s complain about. Or maybe that 30-point per game average would have been tough to get against a team the caliber of the Sixers. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Look, you've got all of that, and I 100% agree with you that this team is constituted. It's built the way LeBron wanted it to be built.
He got all his boys.
Westbrook,
He got all his boys.
All of them are there.
Yeah.
But the other thing I can't help but just question if I'm it's not LeBron, but the Lakers. AD. I mean, this man, like, he was soft, and he was like, last year he was like, man, I got to work harder this offseason. I got to get stronger. I can't let this happen again.
Did it again.
Where the hell's he at?
He did it again. It was lip service, Mike. He is the classic, okay, I've proven my point. I got here. I brought a team a title. I'm good. I am a great player. I'm satisfied with my game. My game looks the exact same that it has for the last 5 years. Name me one area of Anthony Davis's game that has gone above and beyond since he's been an LA Laker or his last couple years in New Orleans. What about his game has improved at all?
I can't tell you.
It looks exactly the same. His offensive game looks exactly the same. The way that he plays defense is exactly the same. Not to say that that's not good, because defense is mostly effort, so you give him credit for that. But the fact that he has not added anything to his game in the last 5 years in watching him play, to me, that says you're content with where you are.
So, to your point, bubble year, he played 62 games. It was the modified season. Remember, that
was his first year with the Lakers. Right. He had something to prove.
Played 62, started 62. He showed up. He has played in just over 70 games in the last 2 seasons. Played 36 last year. He's played 37 this year. And it's the same thing. We were talking beforehand. It's not like you go back some of the great players that never could play because of physical issues.
Sure.
I'm thinking about a guy like Greg Oden.
Wow.
All the way back, you mentioned Michael Jordan, all the way back to Sam Bowie.
There you go.
Like, these guys had chronic issues. Sam Bowie, I believe it was his feet. Big man, his
Bill
feet.
Walton at the end of his career.
Bill Walton.
Yeah.
Well, at least Bill Walton had a career.
He had a career. Yeah. He won a championship on his own, but it was still cut short.
Yeah. And I don't know where in the spectrum of that, but, Magic Johnson's calling him out last year. Like, if you play for the Lakers, Magic calls you out.
It's not good.
No.
Because he's like E.F. Hutton. When he talks, people listen.
So I don't know. I'm just, a lot of what's happened with the Lakers, if Anthony Davis would have taken this offseason seriously like he said he would, we might be having a different conversation.
We would be having a different conversation.
If you have this man in the starting lineup virtually every night.
As bad as Russell Westbrook has looked, Anthony Davis would have been a great eraser, because his contributions would have overtaken and been a great Band-Aid over the performance of a Russell Westbrook. And if you have that kind of caliber player on the court, no matter what Russell Westbrook does, he was going to be bailed out by Anthony Davis doing something spectacular.
All right, that's going to do it for the lead up to Pump the Brakes.
Ooh,
and Dad Jokes.
That's right.
Sean Crespin's got an interesting look on his face. You ready to go?
I'm good to go, man.
All right.
Let's get it on.
We'll step aside, come back. You know it's coming.
Yeah.
Pump the Brakes dad jokes on Train and Grose. Welcome back in. Final segment, Train and Grose.
Yeah.
Regular listeners know what that music means. It's time for Pump the Brakes. Oh, shit. Almost got run over.
He said, woo! Oh,
I stepped into oncoming traffic.
he said, oh, shit. Anyway, this is how it works.
Did you use the dump button?
No, there's no dump button in podcasts. You're fine. Here's how it's going to work. I'm going to give you guys a question, a topic, a statement. You tell me if you're pumping the brakes on it. I'll give you one of these, or if you're riding with it and you're rolling with that particular statement. Are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
We didn't talk a lot about him because there's just so many things going on in the National Football League, but after a relatively quiet free agent period, the Cardinals are a worse football team now than they were at the end of 2021. Pump the brakes or not?
I'm not pumping the brakes. They are a worse team.
I'm not pumping the brakes either, but here's my thing. It's March 23rd.
Yep.
And I don't care if you're talking about the Cardinals or the Cowboys.
They look bad.
They look bad too.
Yeah.
All these teams.
Uh-huh.
You judge the roster. You judge if they're better than they were the year before in September 1st. So when September 1st gets here, I'll pass judgment. But as it stands right now, they got some work to do. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Fair.
You know what I mean? I mean, you're watching other teams making moves and improving their rosters, and this
Yeah.
was a team that at the end of the year looked like it wasn't ready to compete with the upper echelon of the National Football League. And outside of bringing back your tight end,
And
what
your
have you
running
done?
back. And your running back.
But you lost a couple as well. I mean,
No,
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's hard to look at this Cardinals roster right now. And free agency is not over yet. Let's be fair.
Sure.
But it's been a quiet free agent period to this point.
Well, it's been a quiet free agent to this point, but the big name guys are gone. So you're not bringing in
Yes.
a guy that's going to really change life at this point. You're bringing in guys to fill out your roster, quality veterans, guys that you think can help you in certain situations. But I look at this team, and the last time we saw this division, the NFC West, the two top teams were playing for the NFC Championship for a right to go to the Super Bowl. That was the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. Neither one was named the Arizona Cardinals.
No.
So now you're talking about two teams that are clearly above you right now, and the Seattle Seahawks, depending on what they do, because I don't know if Pete Carroll is going to be around for a rebuild. So they're probably going to make some sort of splash move that's kind of been brewing for some time under the radar. They need a quarterback, so those are always must-see TV as far as the information and how that gets put out there. But they are definitely 3 or 4 in the NFC West. And
It's clear 1-2.
Yes.
Cardinals are the middle 3, and right now, if we're judging on end of March, Seahawks distant 4.
correct. But when we talked about this last year, the Cardinals were 1 or 2.
Sure.
And the Seattle Seahawks probably where they still are, but you saw a flip-flop with the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. And now you look at what the San Francisco 49ers are going to do as far as their quarterback situation. Are they going to go to Trey Lance, or are they going to stay with Jimmy G? Like, what's the situation there?
And you don't.
Either way, they're still better than the Cardinals right now.
And it just hit me. That's why I made those funny hand gestures. You don't trade within the division, do you?
No.
Because what are the 49ers? Because I said this earlier. John Lynch, smartest guy in the room. You're stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
No, not really, because you got Trey Lance.
Right.
You got an ace in the hole.
That's my point. You're stuck with him on your roster right now. What are you going to do? Release him?
But you're not stuck. I mean, you can do whatever you want because you already have a guy that you think is going to be a franchise quarterback. So
They thought he would be gone by now with all the quarterback movement that was going on, and they would have got some capital back to help them.
There's a report today that, and whether you believe this or not, it could be the 49ers just trying to drum up their own market for Jimmy G, but there is a report that the 49ers have been offered 2 twos for Jimmy G.
All right. He's still
So,
on their roster
he
right
is.
now. So it's kind of like, what are you going to do? Because
Yeah.
as you said, B-Train, they moved up to get Trey Lance. He
moved
is
up.
the quarterback of the future.
and they want it to be the very near future. So
Jimmy Garoppolo, they thought he would be gone by now.
But here's the thing. Why would you get rid of a quarterback that in the last couple of seasons has gotten you to a Super Bowl and the second round of the playoffs or third round of the playoffs?
You can't argue
to the
with
NFC
his
Championship
results.
game. The man is a winner. You can say what you want about the name and his play at times because it's inconsistent at best. But you look up at the end of the season, they continue to be one of 4 and one of 2 teams left standing. So
do you move Trey Lance?
I mean, okay, if you're the Green Bay Packers, aren't you thinking about moving Jordan Love because you just gave your franchise quarterback how much money? 150 over 3. So there's not much need for Jordan Love right now.
The good thing for the Cardinals is look at the NFC top to bottom. Like, if you're looking to get back into the postseason tournament, you're looking to make the playoffs next year, look at the NFC top to bottom. I mean, there's 3 teams that really make you take notice, right? And one of them's major question mark because they just lost their best offensive weapon in Devontae Adams. So you've got the Bucks, you got the Packers, Rams,
49ers.
obviously.
49ers?
Right, but if you're looking to get in the postseason, like if you're the Arizona Cardinals, if you look at the whole landscape of your conference, it's not exactly murderer's row.
It's the exact opposite of what we said about the AFC, isn't it? Because like you have a hard time, like where do you cut in the AFC?
Right.
You right now, March 23rd, as we record this, the Cardinals are not as good on paper as they were last year.
Yes.
No.
But it's also not a stretch to say, yeah, they might be good enough to sneak into the playoffs.
Right now, if I was putting together your play, I probably have them in there as a 7 or 6. You know, so staying in the NFL, you guys touched on this a little bit earlier. Pump the brakes. Mitchell Trubisky over Baker Mayfield.
Absolutely.
So you're not pumping the brakes on him. All right.
I'm taking Mitchell Trubisky. I think that what happened with Matt Nagy in Chicago was probably criminal. What happened to him as far as him being coached up, being shown how to be a professional, all these type of things. And when he went to Buffalo for that year, he looked a lot better as a quarterback. He looked more like the pick that was the number, 10 pick, I think it was, overall in the draft.
Yeah.
As far as...
No, they moved up. Wasn't it top 5? Didn't they move up?
He may have been a top 5.
Didn't the Bears move up for him, I think?
Number 2.
Yeah.
He was number 2,
Yeah.
sorry. So he looked more like the number 2 pick when he was with the Buffalo Bills, even though he was playing behind Josh Allen. I just think right now, if you're Baker Mayfield, you almost have to go the Jameis Winston route. You've got to go somewhere, back somebody up, get your confidence back, and then try to come back a year later and be that guy. Because right now, it's a game of musical chairs, and there's no more room, there's no more chairs left for Baker Mayfield to be a starting quarterback, other than Seattle. Seattle's his only hope.
Well, and to Sean's point, like if somebody's out there, believe it or not, but offering San Francisco 2 2s for Jimmy Garoppolo, if you're in the market for a quarterback right now, and you need to make a deal, would you rather have Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo?
I'd rather have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Exactly. And so to your point, I agree 100% with him on Mitchell Trubisky. So I guess I'm not pumping the brakes either.
The Colts with Matt Ryan are a contender in the AFC. Pump the brakes or not?
Say that one more time.
The Colts with Matt Ryan are a contender in the AFC.
Yes, they are a contender.
Pump the brakes or not?
No, I'm not pumping the brakes because Matt Ryan is a former league MVP. Matt Ryan has been to a Super Bowl. We've seen him with a good team around him. He can be a guy that can be that cog that doesn't lose it for you. So I look at the Indianapolis Colts. They went to the playoffs with Phillip Rivers once upon a time 2 years ago. They blew it with Carson Wentz. But they still have that nucleus to be a very good team, and all they need is that quarterback to not blow it for them.
Did you say in the AFC or in the AFC South?
In the AFC. And I think I like where you're going because.
But if they win the AFC South, they're in it for the AFC.
And I think that's where Grose is going, right?
But I think
because you get a top 4 seed, Mike. If you win your division, you're automatically a top 4 seed.
So I'm overthinking this.
Well, you get 2 games per season with Texans and Jags.
Yeah.
So
you can win the South, right?
You got 4 wins in your pocket.
But you're hosting the playoff game.
You're hosting a playoff game. But here's one of those things where, okay, and I don't know how this is going to play out, but let's just randomly say you're the number 1 seed as the Colts. That's a huge stretch just to say that, but let's say they are. And then you get a team like the Chargers roll in opening round or the Raiders rolling in an open round because as a team that maybe finishes 3rd or 4th in the West, or Kansas City, if what we say is true. So, like, you won the South, but are you on par with the elite in the AFC?
So, Mike,
I'm overthinking it.
You're overthinking it because, remember,
not pumping the brakes.
We were a team that was a number 4 seed. We were division champions, and the Falcons, once upon a time, with said quarterback, walked in here and they took their lumps and they went home with an L. That was a take that with you.
Don't pump. Keep your receipts, Sean Crutchfield.
Yeah,
that's right.
Real quick in the NBA / college basketball here. So as you're watching the NCAA tournament every year, and you're having to refamiliarize yourself with who the hell these guys are every season, and then you watch the NBA and you watch how unprepared a lot of guys are entering the league. Pump the brakes or not, the best thing for college basketball and the NBA is to get rid of the one and done and have some form of an NFL type 2 years, 3 years before you can enter the league.
Well, first of all, it's just not fair to have one and done anyway. Why make them go if they have no intentions of really being in college?
Either no rules
let
or
them
wide
go.
one. Yeah.
Let them go. If they want to come right out of high school and they have the right to fail, let them fail. But there are always going to be those Kevin Garnetts. There's going to be those Kobe Bryants.
Yeah.
There's going to be those few exceptions to the rule. So, the one and done, you can hang on to Carmelo Anthony as long as you want and Anthony Davis as long as you want. Yeah. But the odds say there's going to be a lot more failures than success stories.
I miss the days when you had, players entering the tournament who are on track to meet up with another star player who you've also been watching for the last 2 or 3 years.
That part I disagree with.
What I mean? I miss the NCAA tournament when you entered
anyway.
it
it's great
with
anyway.
people you knew.
Yeah. No, it's great theater.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
Has this year's tournament not been great?
I mean, it has been.
It's been great,
amazing.
but you don't have that, what you just talked about. You don't have those matchups that you're looking forward to, but there's still great drama, great theater in watching the NCAA tournament.
You know why? It's part of the reason. It's 2 reasons that it's been better is the the transfer portal.
Transfer portal.
So
yes.
guys can land and get stuff squared away, and then the COVID year because you got a lot of 5th-year players rolling around out there.
Some 6-year guys.
Right. So that part, and going back to the NBA, your point, like the one and done is terrible at the core of it. For a number of reasons. You look at how bad things got under Sean Miller at the University of Arizona because that's all he would recruit is those one and done.
And then you have to try to find a way to reload.
Exactly. But this is an issue for the NBA to fix. The development league or the G League, whatever they call it now.
Yep.
Put some more money into that. Make it real, and treat it like a minor league. You don't have that worry in baseball, and baseball makes more money than anybody at the player level. So figure out your development league. Was it the Northern Arizona Suns?
Yes.
Treat it like a real minor league team, unlike what it is right now.
All right, I got 2 pop cultures, so I want to move kind of quickly here. The first one I think will be the shorter one, so we'll go with this first. Maury Povich was canceled after 31 glorious years of paternity tests.
You are not the father.
Every afternoon on your television. So pump the brakes or not, Maury Povich should go down as the greatest afternoon talk show host in history.
No, pump the brakes. He's not even better than Jerry Springer.
Who are we giving it to?
Jerry Springer.
Jerry Springer.
I mean, come on. Jerry. Now, think about this. Jerry was so popular, He got his security guard a TV show.
He did. John, right? Big John?
Whatever his name was. I don't remember, but he had his own show. Mm-hmm. You know you're large when the security guy gets his own show.
Yeah.
Come on now.
What was that dude?
A former politician, a Cincinnati politician.
Geraldo?
No. The dude, he was smoking on air all the time. And he got.
Oh, I can picture the guy you're talking
beat
about.
Up. He staged his own ass whooping. He said they drew a swastika on my face because they hate me so much.
What was his name?
That was all these guys.
Phil Donahue.
No.
I'm just throwing out names
Donahue,
now.
Wow.
Oprah, no.
Can we give a little love to Jenny Jones, please? Huh?
I don't. She lost a lot of. I actually went to Jenny Jones once upon a time when I was in school.
What?
And that story where the situation got.
I think we talked about this.
Yeah, I was there for that.
You were there for that.
I was there for that episode.
Wow.
I was there for that. Yeah. Once upon a time. That was like 1996.
You were at the episode.
I was at the episode where old boy came out and he was like
confessed his love for another
guy. And
yep. That guy wound up killing him.
Yeah.
Morton Downey Jr.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what about Sally Jesse, right? That's another one. I'm trying to think of how many.
The signature red glasses.
Yeah. There were so many in the early 90s. There were so many of those shows.
That was a lot of glory days.
Hell, even Oprah back then when she was trash talk.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean,
I got another one for you. I think this one might go a little ways.
All right.
People on Reddit have accumulated the list of the most heart-wrenching deaths in TV and movie history. So I'll start it by asking you guys, pump the brakes or not. There's been a fictional death, TV or movies, that has broken you up, put you on the verge of tears.
I go to God, what's the name of it? Cooley High when Coach Cheese died.
That's a good one.
I cried. I cried when Coach Cheese died.
That's a good one. Grose? Come on, be honest. There's got to be one.
I tell you another one. In ER, the show ER.
You watched the show?
I watched the show ER.
Hold up.
Listen.
It was a good show when it first started.
I was in college. I watched the show. It was an episode where the guy was actually holding his newborn daughter. The mother died while giving birth. So he's got to raise this kid by himself, knowing that because this baby's here, his wife is
not
gone.
here.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I was like, I can't do this. This is too much drama for me. I got enough drama just trying to get through classes.
This is the
So you
top.
walk out of your dorm room sobbing watching that?
No, I turned it off and went to bed. Like, I was like, I'm never watching that again, ever.
Here's the
emotional.
top 5
All right.
from theirs. Maybe it'll spur one for you. I disagree with a lot of these on here, though. I do think 2 are on the list, or probably at some of the top heart-wrenching moments for me, but they're a little low on this particular list. Cedric Diggory from Harry Potter. I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I don't know.
Damn, that was sad.
Ellie from Up, the wife in the movie Up at the beginning.
Wow.
That's a good one. That comes in at 4. Another Harry Potter character. By the way, spoiler alert.
No.
Fred Wesley. I didn't watch the show. Weasley. I've never seen the show. I've never seen the movie. I can't help you.
Movie, there's 6 of them.
Glenn on The Walking Dead. Did you guys watch The Walking Dead at all? No. And then Scarlett Johansson's character, apparently Rosie, from the movie Jojo Rabbit, which I've never seen Jojo Rabbit either. That came in at number 1.
She dies a lot. You know, she died during the last Avengers movie.
Dude, what are we? Spoiler alert.
Endgame? Are you kidding me?
Is that the finger snap deal?
Yeah.
Here's the 2.
Oh, and also Iron Man died. How about that?
Iron Man died too.
Yeah, how about that?
There's 2 on this list that I completely agree with, and actually one of them is it's number 7 on their list, but it's number 1 in mine. If you watch the movie Marley and Me,
Yeah.
and you don't cry at the end when, spoiler alert, Marley dies,
Can't.
No.
Won't.
I'm sorry. There's, it's that.
I have a soul.
That movie just
Nah.
rips my heart out every time. By the spoiler alert, the dog dies. And then Michael Clark Duncan's character, John Coffey in The Green Mile.
That's a good one.
That's
That's hard.
But I mean, that was such a. First of all, it was a long movie. So
Crazy long.
You had to like hold on for dear life at the end. But it was such a good movie. It was so well done that sorrow wasn't my overwhelming emotion at the end of that movie.
I know. I'm shocked at you right now.
Why? Because I didn't say Richie Valens in La Bamba?
You didn't say Jack Dawson in Titanic.
Oh,
Oh,
screw
my
Jack.
gosh.
Whatever.
Yeah, our hearts will go on.
Yeah. and on, and on,
And on and on.
and on.
And on.
Spoiler alert.
You don't have one, Grose?
Spoiler.
Come on.
Sure, I do. I won't watch. I couldn't.
Maybe it's not a death. Maybe it's just a moment. Like, I'll tell you every single time that Will Smith falls into the arms of Uncle Phil because his dad doesn't show up, if you don't cry during that scene, you
How
don't
come
have a
he don't
soul.
want me?
Oh, my God. I've seen that 25,000 times. It gets me every single time.
They dropped 4 more episodes.
I haven't watched it
Bel
yet.
Air? Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
Shoving the peacock down
When
your
he
throat.
says, how
Telling
come
you.
he don't want me, man? If you don't lose it then, you got no soul.
Hey,
Yeah.
so I told you about Jeffrey
Yeah.
Carlton.
Yeah, you told me about that too.
Carlton's
Stop,
got-
I gotta
stop.
watch
I'm
it.
going to watch it. Stop.
Carlton's got some issues he's got
Stop.
to deal with. That's
Okay.
it.
He's got
That's pretty good.
He's got some stuff he's got to work out. All right, that would be Pump the Brakes. You got to have one, Gross.
Brian's song when Gail Saros
Oh,
died.
that's a good one. That's not that's real. That's
That's a movie.
nonfiction. So
This is a movie.
give me a fictional character. Nothing. Ever. Wow.
I'll think of one driving home and I'll be like,
Damn it.
Cooley High was a real
That's
one.
a good one.
Coach Cheese died. That was real.
That's a good one. Okay. This is where the part of the program where we turn it over to B-Train. You can see if you're watching this program on YouTube, the glasses are on. The shirt
Yeah.
says Dad Joke Champion.
That's right.
So it's about that time of the program. So he will give us his dad joke of the week. For those of us joining us for the first time, no matter what, he's going to get one of these. If it's a good dad joke, he's going to get one of these. It's above and beyond. We're all going to tell our family, which is, and our family and friends, which is what the case was last show. He's going to get one of these. There's always that case where you might get one of those if it just doesn't land right.
And if you're joining us for the first time tonight, you'll notice that Sean Crespin has officially stood up to run dad jokes.
I'm kneeling. B-Train, take it away.
All right, here we go. It has been rumored that a man in camouflage is really sexy. I just don't see it.
It's good. Well done.
And the delivery was top notch.
The delivery was one of the better ones. Well done.
Did you see me? I was like this. Because I started to laugh last time he got mad at me.
Yeah.
And they turned my microphone off so I couldn't laugh anymore.
That was my bad.
That's going to do it for episode 65 of Train and Grose, brought to you by Girl Scout cookies, our favorites, the Samoas.
Wish I had Samoa of those.
Oh, give yourself one. Come on, now give yourself a clap.
No, that's good.
Yeah, way to go.
Give yourself a clap.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Crespin.
Not just a hat rack up here, guys.
There we go. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter at Train and Grose. We'll see you next time.
We'll holla.